If you guys ever need, just holler, okay? And I'm gonna hit that, because I'm probably supposed to. Delete that. Delete that. So a little bit about me. I've done this way too long. I absolutely love this business, though. I'm not joking about that. Like I really couldn't imagine myself doing something else. I have a degree in sports medicine, certified in cardiac rehab. I can run a huge fitness facility. I've done in other parts in college and things, but I got in real estate 22, 23 years ago. And like I said, I absolutely love this business. So I have a little team here. Currently, that little team consists of me as the only agent, which is fine. Last year at this time, I was at 10 deep, right? And then we've had a little bit of a falling out, and I'm kind of taking I call it a break, right? I'm actually entirely more profitable as a single operating agent. I still have staff members, a transaction coordinator, a listing coordinator, all that stuff. I only tell you that because I couldn't do all of this or the amount of business, and I'm not trying to impress you, but I couldn't do the amount of business that I do without those people and that leverage, right? So I don't physically have them in my office anymore. We've got one in the Philippines, one in Alpharetta, Georgia, one in Fort Myers, and one in Naples. So I'm always kind of heavy admin, and they do a little bit of this stuff for me, right? I don't take any photos. I don't put any lock boxes on. I don't put any signs up. I simply present the information to the customer, belly to belly. In my opinion, that's the highest and best use of our time as real estate agents, right? No offense to anyone that's doing $15, $20 an hour stuff. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Personally, I've just, after so many years, have decided to concentrate on the $500 to $600 stuff, right? And I do that by becoming really, really good at presenting information to the sellers. And after several years, kind of learning, what I think they would want to hear. Well, let me rephrase that. Not necessarily what they want to hear, what they need to hear, whether they like it or not. And I've learned to become really, really comfortable with not being attached to the outcome, right? Me personally, and I promise we'll get into it here. I spend a lot of time every day looking for sellers. Yesterday, 379 calls, something like that, by the time it was all said and done. And I know if I do that, 300 to 400 calls a day, I'll end up with 5 to 10, call it leads, some better than others. And if I do that on a regular basis, then I don't have to put up with a lot of unmotivated people, right? I call it, if you generate, you don't have to tolerate, right? And that might not mean anything to some of you that are brand new in this business. I think you've got a pretty decent amount of experience. You're going to get to a point in your career where it's going to be so refreshing to be able to tell a customer, see you later. I got 19 other people that appreciate my services and listen to what I'm saying to do, right? And believe me, right? And so that's kind of how I've structured my career at this point. So today's class is all about CMAs. I've printed a CMA, right? And I'm going to pass it out to you guys when the time comes, but I want to get into a few things first. Many of you have probably heard me even say this in some of my previous classes. A lot of you asked me to teach you this. This isn't the only way to do this, okay? I'm 46 years old. This is the way I was taught 23 years ago. It works for me. I don't have the bandwidth to learn something else and do these automated things in the multiple listing service, or quite honestly, I'm ashamed to admit, maybe KW even offers like a toolkit listing presentation type thing. I'm not your dude that's going to teach you that. I'm going to teach you what I use on a daily basis. When you walk out of here today, hopefully you'll have a model of that. And from there, if you want to make it fancy smancy and put it online and put it on an iPad or whatever it is, you know, some of you folks are probably gonna do, then more power to you, okay? Questions so far? Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna start this conversation with two categories here, okay? Because really, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, it really boils down to 7 things to make you successful in selling a lot of it. And it doesn't matter if that's commercial property, that doesn't matter if it's vacant land, multifamily, somebody's homestead property that they've had for 20 years. It really boils down to these 7 things, okay? So I want to hear from you folks, right? And I can be extremely silent. You can ask my wife. We can go days without speaking to each other. And I win every time, right? She doesn't understand how it doesn't bother me. So I need your participation. Okay? So there's 4 things in my opinion. And I've learned this through the Mike Ferry organization and Tom Ferry and through my affiliation with Place and my affiliation with Gary Keller. Lots and lots of different years combined. There's 4 things really, ladies and gentlemen, that sell property. Let's come up with the 4. Who's got one?
Condition.
Condition. Steve's got condition, okay?
Location. Oh, sorry.
Location.
Yep.
Price.
Price. Probably number 1, right? And the next one's the one that people always forget, which I think is probably one of the most important ones. You nailed the first 3. What's the last one?
Marketing.
You would think, right? You would think, and I knew a lot of you would come in here with that. I hope to debunk that myth a little bit, right? Because as you can see, like, I'm not the fanciest guy in the world, but I still sell a decent amount of property. Yeah, I mean, hey, I told Maggie I got my vintage shirt on with my vintage CMA. I got some matching sneakers. Like, this is all I got, right? I was gonna cover up my tattoos, but it's too damn hot, so I took the long sleeve shirt off for it. One more thing, okay? So I'll give you a hint. It starts with an M, but it's not marketing.
Market.
Come on in, man. No. Starts with an M and it's not market. Sir, your name?
Abraham.
Abraham. Good to see you, Abraham. Going once, going twice, 3 times. You're all gonna be like, oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
If Bob ain't motivated to sell his house, it doesn't matter what factual data I give him. If he wants 900 and his property's worth 6 and he doesn't give a shit if it sells for the next 19 years, he and I aren't doing business together, right? Unless I could get Bob to agree 30, 60, 90 days from now, if it doesn't sell at his price, he automatically reduces when I say it's time to reduce, then okay, cool, I can do that. But I'm not spending $1,500 on marketing his home. If every offer I bring him shy of 900,000, he doesn't even want to communicate. It's just not worth it, right? So can you think of anything else? I mean, other than marketing, right? Which again, I think look, I'm not an idiot. I have really nice marketing, okay? And I'm gonna pass this around in a little bit. But I'm gonna tell you right now, at $3.75 a package, I try like hell every time I go on a presentation to sneak this sucker right out the front door when I leave, because they're never gonna look at it. After we get through what I'm gonna teach you, okay? So I'll pass these around now here a little bit. Like this folder is kind of what I bring on a listing presentation. Just pass them around a little bit. I didn't create them. But this really is something that I bring because at the end of the day, I feel like it's something that if it gets brought up, I can kind of whip that out. You know, it feels nice on the front cover. It's got all the fancy stuff in there. It talks about all the things. Now, you don't see any pictures in there of me with my dogs or me with my kids or me playing golf or any of the other rapport building things that so many people seem to believe is what's going to potentially get you the deal. I'm not saying that if Steve and I weren't really good friends, that me and him playing golf together twice a week for the last five years wouldn't influence his decision to list or not list with me. But I'm just kind of soup to nuts, in your face, these are the facts. Right, with me so far? So if we can't think of anything else, then you're all gonna be forced to agree with me that the four things that sell property are price, motivation, condition, and location, okay? Some of you have heard me talk about this before. Lisette, if my house was located at the corner of Sewage Canal B and my side yard was at the Lee County junkyard, could I sell the house? What's going to be the determining factor?
The environment.
Well, I just described to you what the environment is. Right. Price.
Yeah, but
Right.
the price is gonna depend on the environment that you have around.
Correct. And so exactly, I think we're saying the same thing, right? What I was basically trying to point out is if I've got the worst location possible, all you got to do is adjust the price and somebody will buy it. My grandfather always said there's an ass for every seat. Right? Okay. However, if you've got zero motivation, right, to sell your house, and your location is what's preventing that, right? Every time you have someone that shows the property and they say, oh man, I didn't realize you were right next to the junkyard. Well, if you're not willing to do what you need to do in the price, then chances are you're not going to sell the house, right? But these are real life scenarios here, folks, for me, and I'm trying to use these as examples. Condition, right? In 2013, in a community called Colonial Oaks, I listed and sold a hoarder's home. Okay, 2-story home, 3,100 square foot. You could not walk up the steps. Right, big home, 3,100 square foot. Even at that time, probably should have been in the $600,000 range, pool, the whole 9 yards, right? To make matters worse, I think she had 19 or 20 cats. We lost track. Right, and there was probably a few that had been deceased throughout the thing, right? But so the condition was terrible. But she had a sickness and her family kind of stepped in, right? And all we had to do was get to the price to where someone would overlook the condition of the property, right? So at the end of the day, it's probably first and foremost this, okay? So we're in agreement that these are the four things, right? When you're in a listing presentation or you're putting together a CMA for someone, if you just kind of think to yourself, all right, look, these are the four things that really, really matter when it comes to whether a property is going to sell or not. So let me concentrate on these when I'm in front of people, okay? Now, here's the other portion, right? You go on a listing presentation. And just like I passed around my fluffy brochure and my folder there with our, so I've got my business card in there and I've got, our listing contracts and all of that stuff. At the end of the day, you might think, have any of you, how many of you have actually taken a listing? Okay, so about half, okay, about half the room. So when you go in, ladies and gentlemen, when you go in to make that presentation with the seller, do you have a canned presentation or are you basically winging it? You have a presentation, okay?
Half and half.
Half and half, okay? Half and half. So Maggie, tell me, half of it is the comps, right? And the other half, not trying to put you on the spot, but give me a few things that you would say or the conversations that you would have.
Generally talk about, like the last couple of them were up in Bonita Bay a while back, and the fact that so many people, particularly from the Midwest, want to move to Bonita Bay, and this is what they're looking for. You've got the 2 bedrooms plus den, you've got a great location, access to the beach, and this is what people want. You know, we've got a crowd that wants Bonita Bay, a huge crowd. So that seemed to work.
So you're selling them, pardon my interruption, you're selling them on number one, that you know the neighborhood
Mhm.
and that you know all that the neighborhood has to offer. And then further enticing them with, look, I actually have
Mhm.
a pool of buyers that want
Right.
this neighborhood.
That's what I.
Awesome. Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
So, and then when I was in a Bonita office, I would take them over to the office and do a visual of, because yeah, you can give them those little things that we do.
Mhm.
But the visual on this is much better. So, and that's kind of what and tell them that, the company I was with was just really focused on Bonita Bay and that we can get it sold, and we've sold these in like within 30 to 60 days, and it was more like, why aren't you gonna do it? I presented it like that, not a hard press, but just, these are the facts, this is what we can do. Why don't you sign?
I don't ever see you ever being a hard press.
Yeah.
You're about as laid back as I've
Yeah.
ever come across. All of the stuff that Maggie just said is very, very real. It's right. It's a lot of the same things that a lot of us are gonna do. You know, she's building a little bit of rapport. She's demonstrating that she knows the market, right? She's letting them know that she actually has buyers for the neighborhood, which again, I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. What I'm trying to aim for, quite honestly, is I want to be in and out of that listing presentation in 45 to 50 minutes or less with the paperwork signed. And then I don't really want to come back. Nothing against any of the sellers. I'm sure they're all lovely people, but that's the way that I'm going to kind of teach this, right? So you'll see my listing presentation is relatively concise. My point to all of that is I want to come up with this list here because that's what I firmly believe at the end of the day. If you can keep this in the back of your mind and then convey what the sellers really want, then it's really boils down to, are they motivated or not? Because the facts are the facts. Okay, so number one, in my opinion, what do the sellers want to know? I write it down this way because it has a couple different meanings. How much? Okay, there are driver personalities. Driver personalities are folks that just want the facts.
Right.
Give me the bottom line, what's the deal, right? And so in our pre-qualification, we'll get to it in a second here. I have a pre-listing qualification sheet that I go through before I go on any listing appointment, because it really kind of lets me gather information about the property and the seller so that when I go in and present my information, I can present to what I believe is the style that they want to be presented to. Okay, so number one, they want to know how much. That doesn't necessarily mean list price. That doesn't necessarily mean sale price. It could mean both. It could also mean what's the bottom line, because there's commission and there's doc stamps and there's title insurance and all of that stuff. If I were to go list my father's house right now, right, he would say, skip the bullshit, Cory. What do you get? What's in my checkbook? Right? I'm getting to be that way too, right? What's the insurance commercial where I'm turning into my parents, right? How much? Okay. Number two, can anybody guess? When? Steve, I like it. I write it this way. How long? Okay. This doesn't necessarily mean when are we going to put the property on the market, but it could mean that, right? That question comes up a lot. If we were to list with you, Cory, when are we going to be live on the market, right? Typically for us, it's 3 to 5 business days. And then if they hem and haul around and say, oh, you know, why does it take so long? Well, we don't want to put crappy pictures up that I take with my phone with my thumb in the middle of the screen, right? Because because then we can't get those pictures necessarily back. So I'm gonna schedule a photographer and, it's all about setting the expectations. How long also could mean, how long till we get the property under contract? How long till we have to be out of the house, right? There's a lot of people that are concerned about, oh shit, I don't really want to put my house on the market because I don't want to move before May 1st.
Right.
So you got to be able to address some of those concerns. So both of these phrases encompass a lot of questions around duration and dollars. Okay, but if you can address those, they want to know those things. Here's the last one. Can anybody give me an idea? What it is?
How much it's gonna cost?
How much it's gonna cost?
That-
Well, how much it's gonna cost, I would put up here, right? Because at the end of the presentation today, if we have time, we're gonna complete a net sheet. So they'll know exactly what's it gonna cost. Okay? I'm gonna write, I'm sorry?
Your house compared to others, I mean, how much of the selling in the neighborhood?
Sure, and I think that's gonna fall under here, right, and which is what we're gonna do, how much, right? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, based on this market analysis and the information that I showed you, I do believe that your house will sell between X and Y. When we complete the net sheet, right, here's the bottom line figure, so that's here.
The longer it takes, the more it costs them.
Pardon me?
The longer that time takes, the more it costs them.
You're exactly right, Bob. I'm gonna write it like this. What Chuck gonna do? Okay, they wanna know how much, how long, and what you're gonna do. If you can convey that clear and concise, build a little rapport while you're in there, right? Demonstrate that you're a professional. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you can win 85–90% of the time, right? I'm at about 87% of the time that I go on a listing presentation. I will have got with the listing signed or do it over the internet or what have you, right? I'm not telling you that for any other reason, just because I believe that this system works, okay? Questions around that? Disagreements, hey Cory, you're forgetting 6 other things. Like I'm not the end all be all here. This is what I do. And I've said in both of the videos and stuff here before the class has started, and I'm looking for insights from you folks too. If you've got something that works, like this old dog can learn a couple of new tricks, there's no problem with that. Okay, so I'm gonna hand you guys what I believe, and some of you have heard me say this before, but this is the most important piece of paper, script, that you can use to be successful in listing property. Sissy, did I get you? Sissy.
Doesn't matter.
Well, I used to have a CC on my team, right? And
Okay,
it was SISI. Okay, this is the pre-qualification script. Okay, and I went through this in a previous class, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I'm going to run through the questions real quick. I don't want to dissect the questions, right? But my point by having you guys look at this and hopefully use it, I think you can determine all 4 of these. You can determine a good portion of these just by simply asking these 10 or 11 questions, okay? Sharon, before we meet with you at the property, there's some questions I need to ask you. Do you have a couple minutes for me? Yes, she does, okay. And Maggie, if what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable and totally confident that I can sell your home, are you planning on listing your home with me when I come over today at 3 o'clock?
Yes.
Awesome. Bob, are you planning on interviewing more than one agent for the job of selling your home?
Absolutely not.
Perfect. Steve, tell me again, man, where are you moving to? Alaska. That's awesome. What's taking you to Alaska, sir? Beautiful weather? And it's Abraham, right? Abraham, how soon do you have to be to Alaska?
30 days.
30 days, man, that's not a whole lot of time. Why you gotta be there so quick? You got a job or something, or?
Kids.
Grandkids? Yeah, okay, cool. Carolina, when I see you tomorrow, how much do you want to list your home for?
Half a mil.
500,000, okay, I'm gonna write that down. You know, as a professional real estate agent, I study homes and their prices every single solitary day. Therefore, I'll assume you'll list with me at a price that'll cause your home to sell, not sit on the market. Is that correct? Awesome. Lisette, how much do you owe on the property?
340.
340,000, okay, so you've got a substantial amount of equity that we need to protect, right? Yeah. Cece, have you ever thought about selling the property yourself?
No.
Okay. Abraham, you want to finance the home or do you want to have all your cash when the closing occurs?
All my cash at the closing.
I'm sorry,
I'm on all the cash.
taking all that cash to Alaska
Yeah.
for the grand, you're gonna blow it on the grandbabies, right? Hell, you're gonna need Uggs and mittens and all that, right? Steve, do me a favor. I'm looking at the pictures here from when you expired off the market, but I'm sure they don't really do it justice. Describe your home for me, will you please?
Perfect size neighborhood and for family and food amenities and in excellent condition. All new appliances, AC, roof have been redone recently and should be easy to sell.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna break script for a quick second there because there's one other question that I want you guys to write in here that's not on there. So right underneath number 9. I want you to write, I'm sorry, Shannon. So Steve gave me a relatively decent description of his home. At first I thought, oh boy, Steve's a driver. He was gonna give me like 4 words, right? It's awesome, perfect size, great condition. Hell, I can list his property in and out in 25 minutes, right? And I might just electronically sign his documents because he don't want to monkey around with me any more than I'm gonna monkey around with him, right? So I would add one more question, which is actually 2 more questions, excuse me. Steve, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your home?
And
A 10. Okay. Now, if he said anything other than a 10, I would say to him, what would make it a 10? If he said 7 and I said, oh, cool, sounds like a really nice house. I'm just curious, man, what would make it a 10? And he said, well, the roof's 27 years old. Boom, I got him. And I'm using that old roof for a better price or a price adjustment down the road. Right? If he says, well, you know, my wife and I haven't really done a thing to it since we bought it in 1988, but we're never really here. So I'm thinking purple carpet, wallpaper, you know, probably still in really, really good condition, but probably needs to be updated in today's market, right? Next question then is, I'm gonna send over a package of pre-listing information. Will you take a few minutes and review it? It's gonna save us time when I come over. Generally, they'll say yes, and typically I get an email address and I email them the information. Now, depending on how lengthy the conversation is, I might go ahead and send them a copy of the purchase and sales agreement. I might send them a copy of the seller's disclosure if I want to get them filled out. You know, if you've got a bio or something like that that you want to get in front of them, like I would send my, you know, my brochure there that you guys have. I have that in a digital format. I just want to get it something in front of them to kind of stay top in mind if it's going to be another couple of days. Now, 15, 20 years ago, when I was being coached from the Mike Ferry organization, we were trained to send a bio, track record, comps, the whole 9 yards, and deliver it either with a courier or in the mail as an actual written copy. Anymore, I don't do that. I don't think too many agents anymore with technology are spending that kind of money to do it, right? Number 11, Doreen. Do you have any questions before I arrive?
Sorry, because I'm coming in the middle, but.
And just say no, that would be helpful.
So no.
Perfect.
No, I'm not.
Thank you, right? Now. I can mess with Doreen. I was gonna tell her, come on in, we're just going over the time management aspect of the presentation, but she already told me she was gonna be a little late. So maybe Doreen says, yeah, what do you charge? Right, or, you know, how long you think this will take, right? Like the actual presentation. If she asks about commission, I'm going to try to dodge that bullet as much as possible, and I'm gonna level shift right? And I'm gonna say something to the effect of, Doreen, what it really sounds like is you wanna net the most amount of money possible for you and your family, right? Only an idiot's gonna say something other than yes, and I'm gonna say, knowing that, Doreen, as soon as I knock on your door tomorrow at 4 o'clock, that'll be the first thing we address, okay? And then when I go there tomorrow at 4 o'clock, it'll be like the last thing that we address, but she's never gonna press me on it. Again, trust me, she won't, okay? Until it's important, okay? Maybe she says, how long is the presentation gonna last? And I'm gonna say, that's a great question, Doreen, and if you promise me to look at that information that I'm gonna send you via email, we can be done in like 30 minutes. Is that an okay time frame for you? And she'd be like, oh gosh, cool. The last bozo was here for 3 hours trying to show me their championship poodles that they win all these awards with, like they could care less, right? Bob, just so you know, our meeting should really only take about 30 minutes. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Is that okay? Good for me. Okay, so that's the pre-listing, pre-qualification for the listing presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I use that every time. I don't care if it's a relative. I don't care if it's a past customer or client, right? I don't care if it's in the bag. Now, okay, I should preface that with, like yesterday I took 2 listings. The conversation was, Cory, we've done enough business together. Just tell me what the price is. These are small little lots in Cape Coral that he's losing his shorts on. Tell me the price, send me the paperwork. And it was as simple as that, right? So it was 55 and 57,000. I sent it to him and in 3 minutes. I mean, really, if I wanted to just sign it on his behalf, I probably could have done that, but you didn't hear that from me, right? I made him sign. So there are those instances, you know, when you get going in business, but outside of that, ask these people these questions, because now when we go through our list here, there's not a whole lot that we don't know, right? Carolina wants to list a property at 500,000. Whether or not that's an accurate price, we don't know. But I've already set her up with, in this presentation, you know, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I'll assume you'll list with me, assumptive close, list with me at a price that'll cause your home to sell, not sit, right? Abraham can't sit. His grandkids are coming. He's got to be to Alaska in 30 days. See how we're tying this in, right? So if he gives me any crap when I go to his house about not wanting to price it correctly, I'm gonna start talking about those grandkids. Man, what are you gonna do if it takes you 9 months to see your grandkids? Or why is it so important that you want to see those grandkids in 30 days? Like that's bringing the pain, right? So that he caves to what I think is an accurate price, right? So we've touched on motivation, right? Steve told me about how awesome his house is. Hell, this thing's the Taj Mahal. It's a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10, right? So there shouldn't be anything wrong with the home whatsoever. I shouldn't go over there. It shouldn't smell like cats. It shouldn't be cluttered. Right? It should be, the grass shouldn't be 14 feet high. His pool shouldn't be green. It's awesome, right? I already know where the location is because I've done my homework, okay? So now all we have to do is convey, based on the information that they gave us, these 3 things, right? How much? Okay, so we talked about this briefly. How much could mean, how much is he gonna list it for? How much can he expect or she expect to sell it for, right? Ultimately, it could also mean what's gonna be left over when it's all said and done. Okay, and again, we're gonna talk about the net sheet. You with me so far on that? In our multiple listing service with the comps that we're gonna go through here shortly, we're gonna be able to determine that price range. I'm gonna strongly suggest to those of you folks that haven't done a whole lot of listing presentations, if at all possible, try to keep your fingerprints, your DNA off of the recommended list price. You want them to come to this conclusion on their own, because if they don't, and your price is wrong, it's going to be an arm wrestling match for the rest of the listing contract to try to get them to adjust the price. Well, you're the one that told us to list it at this, and you know, all the other things that they say, right? Regardless of the market shifts or not. So typically what I do, again, this isn't gospel, but I try to give them about a 5 to 10% range on where I think their home will sell, a low end and a high end. and try to get them somewhere kind of in the middle, again, based on their answers to these 10 or 11 questions. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Okay. Is it hot in here?
No.
Comfortable? Okay. How long, right? What are some of the questions that they could be, that we need to convey with them when we're talking about how long?
Reasonable price,
Pardon me, sir?
more reasonable price, better.
Correct. What I'm getting, that's a correct answer. What I'm getting at is, when I say how long, right, this is one of the things that we need to convey to them. There's a few how longs around that conversation. Give you an example.
How long?
Steve's got it. How long is the contract? Right? Give me another one.
First. First.
How long until we get our first offer?
Yes.
Love that one. Anything else?
Closing.
How long till the closing, right? Come on in, sir. Right, how long to the closing? Because, I've got a gal right now on Vanderbilt Beach. We listed it the 30th of December. With her only caveat, she gets to stay in the property until August or April 30th. Is that the last day of April? 30 days in April?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So whatever, sell it tomorrow. I'm sticking around. They're not throwing me out. This is my last hurrah in Naples, Florida. I'm 88 years old. She doesn't drive. She walks around the little neighborhood with her cane, right? She's the cutest thing in the world. She's owned it for however many years. Right? She agreed with the price, showed it on a drop of a hat. She just wants to make sure that she sticks around until April 30th, right? So how long? And then last but not least, what are you gonna do? Right? So we talked about marketing and we won't spend a whole lot of time on marketing, but what are you gonna do, ladies and gentlemen?
Open houses.
Okay? I'm Corey, by the way, sir. You are?
Ready.
Hey, Freddie, good to meet you, man. Good to meet you. Open houses. What are you gonna do to sell my house? Abraham, what are you gonna do to sell my house?
This is the postcard.
Just listed postcards, okay? Steve, what are you gonna do?
Professional photos,
Professional photos.
broker open,
Excuse me?
broker open.
Marketing online,
Okay, like social media stuff?
social media
Okay.
and realtor.com.
Okay, social media, online, marketing. That was not the answer I was looking for you, young lady, but I'll accept it. What the hell did we do yesterday for 2.5 hours?
Yeah,
Phone prospecting,
you're right.
right? I'm gonna call, the first thing I'm gonna do, Steve, when I list your homes, I'm gonna call all of your neighbors. And I'm gonna ask them, who do you know that wants to move into our area? Oh shit, Corey, you'll do that? Yeah, I'll do that because I'm gonna take 3 other listings because I did it. Right? I'm gonna get one just by calling, and then once I sell your property, then I'm gonna call them again and tell them that I just sold your property in 11 days for this amount of money, and then 2 more are gonna raise their hand in the next 18 months. Okay, that's my pitch on phone prospecting. What else? Okay. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, you're making a lot of money here. You gotta give me more than this crap.
Door knocking.
Huh?
Door
Okay,
knocking.
don't sound so excited,
No,
Dory.
I'm not. No, circle prospecting and door knocking are not my thing.
Okay,
It's okay.
okay,
It's okay.
okay, doesn't matter.
That's right.
What else? Anybody got anything else?
Target market.
Target marketing, okay? Sound like 6% to y'all?
You
Ready.
do, an email blast to, past clients.
Okay, so can we call that social media, email blast?
Social media would be more posting online of like doing a home tour, saying like physically doing an email to like other sellers or buyers that you might have already in your database.
Perfect, okay, I understand now, okay? Like I just reduced the price on a listing today, 15, 16 grand, I've hired that showing time service or whatever, and they blast it out to everybody for like 15, 20 bucks. Okay,
I do the Out and About Southwest Florida TV show.
okay. TV, radio. Okay, here's the question now, ladies and gentlemen, these are all awesome answers. Anything earth shattering? Anything that, everybody else ain't doing?
Well, also, I guess, depending on what the property looks like, if the property is dated, you can do some reality renovations to showcase what the potential could be of the property.
Okay. So we'll call it, what do we want to call that?
Like before and after.
Okay, before and after. Okay, I like that. Never done that, but I like that. My point is here with this, what you're gonna do, right? They wanna know what you're going to do to snake $30,000 out of their pocketbook when you sell their home, right? Right now it's taking a little bit longer, but for the last 2 or 3 years, you really had to convey what the hell you were gonna do because the thing would sell before you got the sign up. Again, now that's shifting a little bit, but again, nothing against any of this stuff. But this is nothing new, ladies and gentlemen. This is all stuff that your competitor, if they're interviewing somebody else, luckily for me, Bob said, no way was he gonna interview anybody else, right? But your competitors are doing a lot of this stuff too, at least probably 90% of it. So what's my point when I say that one of the most important things is what you're gonna do? You gotta make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you're pointing this stuff out, even though it ain't rocket science, it's not the latest and greatest, like the next best thing, but you gotta tell them that you're gonna do some of this stuff, because if the person after you comes in and tells them that they're only gonna use professional photos, you might lose a listing, even though you're thinking, who the hell would take a listing without using professional photos? Well, take a quick glance in the MLS in Golden Gate City or Golden Gate Estates or Lehigh Acres or Cape Coral and see, you know, a half naked individual in the mirror in the bathroom taking the photos with their cell phone, right? So don't assume that they know that because they don't, right? It's important to let them know that you're gonna make just listed calls or just sold calls, or that you're gonna send out postcards, right? Because then you gotta make sure that when you send out that just listed postcard, make sure they get one,
Of course.
right? Professional photos, broker open, Steve, right? Or Steve, are you licensed someplace else and have done this before, or?
Yeah, in Dallas.
In Dallas, and broker open still relatively important, or relatively popular?
Popular price range usually.
Yeah, so we didn't do them for years, and now all of a sudden it seems like they're starting to pop up a little bit on the luxury. So I like that. I like the before and afters, the e-blast, the social media, online marketing, right? Again, even as a 46-year-old man, I don't still necessarily understand the power of the internet. And so you gotta remember the audience that you're talking to, right? Carolina's probably one of the youngest ones in the room. I'm not gonna nearly try to guess
I am.
some of the ladies' ages, right? But there might be
What are
a
y'all
difference
laughing
of,
at?
there might be a difference of where you're advertising and marketing this property based on, you know, or at least conveying to Carolina where it's going to go versus where we might, you know, no offense, Bob, tell you where we're gonna put it. Right? I mean, there's a difference there. So make sure you point some of that stuff out. Did you have a question?
I do. So, is that a good spot to also mention to them, you know, when we get an offer, we're gonna do the negotiations, not only with the other agent and the buyer, but with the inspector, the appraiser, et cetera, whatever.
Yes, that's exactly where we were going next, Doreen. I love it. Right? So that's what you're gonna do. Doreen just mentioned, could you be so kind and say it again?
That when we get a contract, that we're going to negotiate not only with the buyer and the buyer's agent, but with the lender, the inspector, everybody that comes into the house that wants to take money out of your pocket, we're gonna do our best to negotiate, on your behalf.
100% correct, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we do this on a really regular basis, right? some of us more than others, right? But we do this on a really regular basis. Some people that are selling property, this might be the second or third, or maybe even the first time ever that they've ever gone through this process, and they just don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? For the last, well, ever since I've been in the business, what's the number one complaint from the consumer about real estate professionals?
They don't communicate.
Lack of communication. They don't know what the hell we're doing to earn our money, right? So why wouldn't you point out to them, ladies and gentlemen, once we get an offer, here's what happens next, right? Okay, what else under what you gonna do?
I'm gonna sell your house. I'm gonna price it right, I'm gonna sell it.
Price it right, right? Price it to an open market versus a narrow market, right?
We also have a huge sales force within the company, be able to distribute that information to their clients.
Right, you're gonna take advantage of the company, you're gonna take advantage of Keller Williams, what is there, 180,000 associates, currently, something like that, right? That's super, super powerful, right? As well as your database and all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got another hour and 15 minutes, so. Pardon me?
Good.
Okay, so that's really what I wanted to get into before we really just kind of dive in and go through the comps. Again, I apologize for some of you that have done this a bunch. Some of this is gonna kind of be, I'm trying to think of the word that I want to use. You've just done it a bunch, so again, some of this is just gonna be a little bit painful, but I'll try to work through it as fast as possible. Any questions on this? Questions on this? Okay. I'm going to pass out a package of papers here. This is when I start doing a CMA. This is all of the information that I will print for a particular property.
No, I think that was yours. That was yours.
Oh, okay.
You got one? I'm old. I kill a lot of trees with my paperwork. Again, that's what I'm saying. Guys, you wanna do something fancier than this on an iPad or whatever, then have at it. Do me a favor and please keep those pages in order, otherwise I'll get all flustered and screw up and I'll have to do a temper tantrum and we'll be all out of order.
God forbid.
Huh?
God forbid.
And then last but not least, this is a seller's net sheet. And I'll say this as well. Yes, there are all kinds of apps and automated places that you can plug in the scenarios of the sales price or range, and your title company probably has them. And every time that I have a title company that calls me and says, Cory, we have this new, give me a pen. Cory, we have this new awesome tool that allows you to calculate the net proceeds for your seller. All you gotta do is plug in the information and you can send it over to them. Can't say never. But I will say that I have won, I bet no less than 50 listing presentations in my career by taking in a blank piece of paper like that and completing a sales range right in front of them across from the table, knowing my numbers, knowing my price range, having asked them the questions about how much do they owe, all of those things, and then turning around and showing them, ladies and gentlemen, if we sell for this, here's what you can expect. If we sell for this, here's what we can expect. If you can demonstrate that to a majority of people that don't do this on a daily basis, you just elevated what they think of you as a real estate professional, in my opinion. Okay? Okay, so this is a property that I'm going to list. We're gonna go live with this property next week. And I'm not gonna tell you the price just yet because hopefully after an hour here, we'll be able to kind of figure out what that is. But the property itself, ladies and gentlemen, the subject property, which you do not have, okay, is 2153 Oxford Ridge Circle. I'll pull it up now. Okay. I'm pulling this up because this is how I start every time. Does anybody know how I can get that off? Like a minimum?
Yeah, like that.
There.
This little one here will make it even smaller?
No,
No,
just slide it. Slide it to the right, keep going.
okay, perfect. Okay. This is how, again, this is how it was taught, okay? There's other ways to do it, that's fine, have it. This is how I was taught. The very first thing that I do, somebody calls me, they're interested in selling their property. The very first place that I go is to either to the Lee County Property Appraiser or the Collier County Property Appraiser, and I go find the property, right? I go find the property for lots of different reasons. We can go on and on about why we do it. Personally, I got called on this property from a past customer of client of mine whose name is Gert. Anybody see a Gert up there?
Nope.
Right? Gert, Cory, this is Gert. I'm ready to sell my property in Lehigh. You know that one in Westminster we've been talking about here for years and years. Oh yeah, the one we've been talking about, Gert, where you're gonna get a new roof and paint this and do that. 4 years later, you finally got it done, sir? Yeah, we're ready to go. Okay, cool. Right? He doesn't own the house,
Goodness.
right? He financed the house for his daughter, Krista, who owns the property, who for whatever reason probably couldn't go to the bank and get her own financing, so daddy stepped up, and as far as daddy's concerned, daddy owned the house. Not important, but important to know who the heck we're dealing with, right? Gert might have also told me.
Slide it down to the
Again.
bottom. There you go.
Gert might have also told me here in our conversation that the property was, oh my gosh. Am I gonna be monkeying with this all the time here? I guess so. Brutal. What in the world? Oh, okay, here. Gert also told me that this was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and about 2,100 square foot under air. So before I go preparing for a 2,000 plus square foot 3-bedroom home, I better double check here, because according to this, it's 1,836 square foot under air, right? Wouldn't be the first time, not gonna be the last time that they say one thing and what's reflected is something else. In Golden Gate Estates and Cape Coral and Lehigh, and I'm not bad mouthing any of those neighborhoods because I sell out there all day long, but converting garages to bedrooms and unpermitted work and all of that stuff comes into mind, and you just want to make sure that you're taking all that stuff into consideration, right, Freddie? You know this, right? It also gives me really, really important information about what they most recently paid for the property. As you can see here, I can see in 2022, old Gert finally did that roof, right? And in 2005, a pool and spa was put in. It was built in 2004, so the pool and spa were put in after the fact, right? Some of that stuff's important, some of it's not important, but at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I always start here with the property appraiser, and I print it. There's like 6 pages of data, and I print it, right? Because that's what I'm kind of using as my basis for my subject property. I even go a lot of times one step further, and again, I know a lot of this stuff is really, really simple stuff here, ladies and gentlemen, but I want to see, without driving all the way out there, where this place is located.
I feel so smart. Maybe it's our age,
Probably.
because I do the same thing.
Yeah, right?
No.
I mean, I zoomed out a little bit too much there, right? I know Westminster. So he's got a little bit of a view. It would be awesome if he had this view, right? But he doesn't. So he's got a little bit of a view from his lanai when he's sitting facing the east at 5 o'clock drinking a glass of wine, right? That's about what he's got, right? But he's not on the interstate. He's not, if he was backed up to a preserve or on the hole of a golf course where it looks like he's, obviously you can see here, he's on the golf course. Those are important things to take note of when you go to put your pricing together, right? So everyone kind of understands that. So the first thing I do, I'm going to print that. Again, I'm a tree killer, so I'm going to print everything under the sun and then go from there. So now I know what Gert or Krista has to offer in this particular instance, right? And so now I'm going to go in and try to find my comps. Okay. So I have the comps already printed for you guys. But I just want to go in here and kind of show you, especially for you guys that haven't done this a bunch. So this obviously is a community called Westminster in Lehigh. It's a golf course community. And so the simplest thing to start with is everything in Westminster, right? Because this is a gated community, a golf course community in Lehigh. I'm not going to compare this to a home in Bonita Springs, or for that matter, a home on a half an acre or a quarter acre in old Lehigh right downtown, right? That's built in 1976. It's got a one-car garage. So right now I've taken all of Lehigh and I've made it to just Westminster, right? Now, I don't know Westminster enough to know or not whether there's other product in there. I think it's only single family home, but I'm going to make sure that I'm only comparing single family homes, right? I really only want to look at the actives. I'm concerned about the pendings, and I'm concerned about the closed. Now, Doreen, in today's market, no wrong answer, no right answer. To go back and look for solds, how far are you going back right now?
120.
120. Freddie, you've done this a while, right? How long do you go back right now?
It depends on the property, but 120 usually.
Okay, 120?
If I see that the property that there's no comparable, I'll go further.
Sure. Yeah, if you don't have any, you got to go back a little further, right? Anybody else do anything different right now? Other than 120? When the market, so like I list a fair amount of vacant lots, right? And in Cape Coral right now and Lehigh, it's become super, super competitive because the market is just completely saturated. So I really only look at, when I go to do my CMAs for something like that, I don't even really care about the pendings. I mean, I might look for the hardcore pendings, not the pending contingencies if I don't have enough sales. But on something like that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm probably not looking more than 60 days. But I'm also probably going to do a map search, right? And so I want to point that out too. This is a really cool tool that I've really only taken advantage of for the last couple of years. Let's say you're listing a property in Lehigh, right? Or let's call Naples Park, since we're in Naples, right? You're listing a property in Naples Park. Well, you could search by Naples Park, or you could maybe search for a 1 mile or 1.5 mile radius of Naples Park. That might not be the best example because you'll get some of the Connor stuff and some of the multi-million-dollar stuff, but you get what I'm saying, right? But again, on those vacant lots, I mean, I just got notified today. I listed a property on 54th in the Cape. And I just got notified today from one of those holding companies that like the lot 2 doors down can be bought for like $5,900. And I'm at 22 and I thought I was at the right price. Right. So that's my point, right? I mean, you don't know the circumstances. I didn't dwell on it too much, but on something like that, I wouldn't go back a full 120 days. Now, up until, I don't know about y'all, but my summer was extremely, extremely slow. There wasn't a whole lot of sales going on, things like that. So up until maybe a month ago, you might have had to at times go back, like Freddie said, even a little bit further because you can't find the comps, right? Freddie, what do you, when you go to put together a CMA, do you have a guideline as to how many actives, how many pendings, how many closed you want to present?
I try to do threes.
Okay, 3, 3, and 3.
Yeah, if I
Anybody?
get a piece of each, then I'll show them 3.
Okay.
Three active, three that are actually sold.
Mhm.
Their active is what they're looking at on Zillow, so that's what they're looking at.
Yep.
But what it's sold for is really what's the important part here. So you wanna list closer to the sold price, or you're gonna be, depending on how active those actives are, they might be on there for a year,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And that's, but they're seeing it on Zillow, they don't know how long it's been up for. So they'll say, my neighbor is selling for 500, but what's really selling is at 400.
Yeah, right? And I have my finger here towards how long, right? Because, yeah, they're looking at Zillow, or, hey, my neighbor just sold. Yeah, your neighbor just sold. Congratulations, it took them 660 days to get the job done. Abraham, you told me you needed to be in Alaska for your grandkids in the next 30 days. Can you afford, sir, to have a 660-day listing agreement? Right, you can't, you need 30 days, so now I just got a price adjustment, right? Thanks for saying that. Anybody else use more than 3?
I use
Right.
2.
3 to 5 is kind of where I'm at. It just depends on how many I think it's going to, I don't generally use anything less than 3, but if I think there's 2 more that could be added to really drive home the number that I want to kind of point them to, then I'll certainly use it, right? Yes, Steve?
Yeah, so when the market was really moving up, people were adjusting beyond comps,
Mm-hmm.
saying, well, the market's moving up, so yeah, it's sold for that, but let's add something because
Yeah.
the sellers, everything's selling and whatever.
Sure.
So now, since the market is turned the other direction, you have a conversation with the person who you're seeking a listing from, that even though this thing sold, it might have been 60 days ago, and the inventory is added so much since then, and therefore we can't really just rely on that. You might have to drop the price more, especially related to what's for sale actively now, so that you have an advantage, and if you want to sell quickly, then you're gonna stand out, and therefore people will come and look at the property.
Yeah, right. The conversation that I have, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts, but the conversation is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what price do you suggest we put on your home so that you're the next person that's chose, right? When there's 5 or 6 other options, forget about 2 of your neighbors sold 90 days ago for XYZ. Now you have 6 other neighbors identical to you, right? You're all built in 2017, you all got similar features and functions here. Where do you suggest we price to make, right? But again, I'm going back to, why is he going? Where's he going? What's his motivation? Right? What do you say in today's market?
In today's market, I use the monthly market stats. I use the graphs that Jeff has. I will put them in, especially if you have somebody that is very analytical, very engineering type. That's their everything. So,
What if they're not?
if they're not, we have a conversation about, and still the graph shows how much inventory currently, how much is sold, so people can see the line is going up or down.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah,
Did everyone hear what she just said? This is a highly successful, very intelligent real estate agent who simply said, I showed them the lines
Yeah.
up or down.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this ain't rocket science.
it's not, it's not.
Right? And I don't mean that to Doreen, I mean that to your
Exactly.
consumer.
Exactly.
This or this, right? They look at their stock portfolio that way, they look at all kinds of different things that way. That's all the data that you gotta get in front of them, and a reasonable, motivated person will make the right decision.
So
Sorry.
in your closed, depending on, so if you're at 120 days, even though I pull 120 days and I look at that data, I don't necessarily give them sold in 120 days. I will give them what is sold in the last 60, and last 60 days. And kind of say, look, you can see our inventory, we have a lot of inventory, we only have 2 sold in the last 60 days. What does that tell you?
And the formal name for that is,
Absorption. and-
Absorption.
Yeah,
Right.
you need to know, how many days, your average days on market, and how much inventory you have, and the market stats sale. But
Yeah, and again, it's another reason, I'm gonna keep harping on this, it's another reason why that damn pre-listing paperwork or the pre-listing
yeah,
script that I just gave you guys is important, right? Because if they have an objective and the current market can't meet that objective, then they're gonna be forced to make the decision to price it more aggressively than they would have before showing them that information. And again, if they're not going to make that decision, they're either going to agree to a built-in price adjustment on my terms, or I'm not taking the listing. I've got 20 or 22 current listings that aren't selling.
right,
I don't need more. I need signs up and I need signs down.
I agree.
Okay? Different than 18 months ago, I would take anything I could get my hands on, just to have signs in the yard so I could get telephone calls.
Mhm.
Now I have neighbors going, what the hell's wrong with Cory? This house has been on the market for 9 months, right? Okay, so timing, right? Close sales could be 6 months, could be, for instance, I was working on one yesterday, waterfront. And he wants to compare a house in Punta Gorda that he wants to purchase versus a home that he built or that he bought for me in 2020 on the water in Bonita. And a lot of that stuff was ravaged, from the hurricane, right? So I had to go in and find some actual comps. We had comps that were sold with like the entire downstairs floor missing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then we had to go back a little bit further to find some and then kind of take into consideration, in that 2020 to 2021, no, excuse me, 2021 to 2022, when Lee and Collier County enjoyed the nation high 38.9% increase in property value. I'm still using that to this day. So yesterday with this guy, Amato, hopefully you guys don't know him and throw him under the bus. I looked and tried to put something together for this home that he overpaid in COVID, because that's what you did during COVID, you overpaid, right? So in 2020, he overpaid for this 1,700 square foot wood frame, beautiful inside home in Spring Creek down by the Hyatt in Bonita. And now I can't find any comps to use. Number one, because of where the property is located, what he has and all of that stuff. So I basically, when it was all said and done, I put together my best email that said, I do believe that your property value has increased about 42% since when you purchased it in 2020. Right? And then I calculated what those numbers were, and that's the range that I gave him. And lo and behold, he was like, yeah, that's about what I thought. Right? All he did was look at Zillow,
Oh, good.
right? Which, before I forget, don't ever go on a listing presentation without looking to see what the hell Zillow says. They looked.
They did.
They looked at Zillow, they looked at realtor.com, they looked at anything else that they could get their hands on. They're getting a market report or a listing alert from 19 of you people, all on the same day of the month. So they know. But Zillow's generally the one that they want. And if you go in there and don't have any idea of what Zillow says, I bring the damn property appraiser sheet right in with me, and I have it written right at the top, Zillow, and I write the dollar amount. Because I know it's gonna come up.
Not always accurate,
Huh?
not always accurate.
It's never accurate. But my point is, you need to be able to have that conversation with them. I mean, hell, on the front page of Zillow, I think it says that there's a disclosure on there, a disclaimer that says they could be as far as 10% off, up or down. Right? But again, my point is they have it, so you don't want to be caught with your shorts down when they start quoting, well, Zillow says this, right? You're gonna see Zillow being low just as much, in my opinion, as you're gonna see Zillow being high, right? I mean, they really make some bonehead mistakes. Okay, so let's get back here on task, right? So single family in Westminster, closing in the last 120 days. We could go a little bit further. So we've got 15 sales. As Freddie said, that's entirely too many, right? We don't want to do that. Lisette, tell me something else that we could throw in here to kind of eliminate 15 options and get it down into that 6, 7, 8 range. Bedroom size?
I mean, how many bedrooms, sir?
Okay.
Sorry, how many bathrooms?
Okay, so let's use bedrooms, right? Because this is a good point. The subject property we agreed has 2 and 2, right? So now in a 2-2, what would y'all use for comparisons? You're gonna use a 5.3? You're gonna do a 2, right? You're gonna do a 2. Probably gonna do a 2 and a a 2-bedroom and a 2-bedroom and a den. Would you skip to a 3? Would you use a 3?
It may be too much, but
My question with it then.
What is square foot?
Right now?
Yeah, so I'm gonna look here now. So we got to 9 by including 3. In this particular instance, I'm going to use the 3 just because I'm teaching the class and so I get to call the shots. I don't even remember what the heck I used here. Somebody else mentioned something though that I think was important, right? The square footage, right? So this was an 1,800 square foot. I'm sorry, Maggie. This is an 1,800 square foot home. What's my square footage range that I'm using?
1,700 and up.
Lisette says 1,700. Anybody got another figure for the
I
low
was
end?
gonna say 16 and 19.
Okay,
That's what I was gonna say.
we'll use 16. I like 16. In this particular instance, my gut tells me to go up over 2,100 square foot, right? Even though I know that there's a huge difference and everybody in this room knows that there's a huge difference between 1,800 square foot and 2,100 square foot most of the time, right? Most of you that have done this a long time know that you can go in a house and be like, wow, this does not feel like 1,850 square foot. It feels like 2,100, something like that, right? So just for these purposes, let's go to 2,100 because I want to make sure that I at least get the comps that I used. And so now we're at 6, right? If we're lucky at all, it'll be the same 6 comps that I printed, hopefully. I probably should have wrote this down because my only thought is I might have went back on a closed sale more than that, but you guys can help me out on this, right? Fair Loop is number 1. Can you guys double check me on this here? Fair, so we got, well, actually, I know that I'm wrong right now because I've got 3 actives and I've got 3. Okay, it's not important. Forget that. Sorry, it's not important. Okay. The goal would have been, if I was a professional, to have the 6 comps that I provided with you on paper to match the 6 comps up here, right? They don't. It looks like one of them went pending, as a matter of fact, and we don't have enough time to dwell on it. But I found my comps. Okay, so now I might go through these particular comps before I start printing them and just make sure that I'm comparing kind of apples to apples, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and everybody with me so far on that, right? So when I'm going through these, yes, sir.
Recently, just now you mentioned how you might use map search, but go into that. I'll be the one to use map search to compare.
Do you want to know how to use map search? Okay. In this particular instance, Abraham, we wouldn't use map search because we've searched for everything inside the gates of a neighborhood called Westminster. So there's no reason to do a map search because we're on it, right? But let's say we wanted to search for who's got a listing in the estates? So we got a listing in the estates, an active listing. No, I can't think of one of my listings here. Pardon me?
I need on the state,
What's your address?
360,
360
no, 360.
360 Uh-huh.
15th Street,
15th.
yes, southwest. 15th Street southwest,
Right there, right?
yes.
Okay, so that's how we're doing it, right? So you could put the subject property in, right, which is her property, and then we could search in a mile radius, half a mile, 2 miles, all the way up to 25 miles of homes that are close to her particular property. Now we could go ahead and we could put in, they've got to be single family, they've got to be 2,000 square foot, all of those things. And it becomes really, really helpful, right? It's got to be on, like if it's a lakefront, it's got to be on a lake. So that way you're comparing apples to apples, right? Okay, so I screwed that up. I can go here. Okay, so these are our comps that we decided we were gonna take a look at and potentially use, right?
Yes.
If my mind playing tricks on me, or does that now look different?
It looks like there's one that.
One went pending. At the end of the day, yeah,
You,
okay.
you got it, you're
At the end of the day, I do know what I'm doing. It just looks like from the time that I completed this until now, one of them went pending, right? Unfortunately, it wasn't mine. So. Okay, so now here's what I'm gonna go through, and I'm just gonna kind of make sure that I'm comparing apples to apples, right? This one is active. Again, so I'm just doing a quick run through here real quick, take a look at some pictures, things like that, right? Now, again, I have every intention of printing exactly what I just gave to you guys, right? So now I'm gonna do the questions on that.
no,
So here's what I do. I print, as you can see from these huge packets here, Mother Nature, please forgive me. I print all of these because even if I'm going to simply email the customer these comps, I prefer not to email them when it comes down to an actual market analysis. I prefer, I'm not saying that it's right, I'm sure there's way easier ways to do it, to print these, put all my highlights and all my information that I write and my circles and all of that stuff on here, and then scan it in and email it to them. I prefer that. I think a lot of people get confused when you send them links to the MLS and stuff. They don't know how to maneuver. They're not looking at the same damn view as you're looking at. It becomes really, really confusing. Maybe not somebody that's 25 years old, but somebody that's 46 years old that does this every freaking day, I still get confused, right? So then I'm gonna send this to my parents or my grandparents or somebody like that.
no.
You might as well just kill the tree and send the paper. I'm sorry, there's just really no other way to do it, in my opinion, right? So I take my comps, right? And again, you've got to put yourself in the shoes of who you're discussing this with, right? And so I go through, where's my copy here? So the first one that we have up is 4632 Bancrest, right? Okay, keeping in mind, ladies and gentlemen, they want to know this. And this is going to cause it to sell, right? Quickly, what's the information that we need to highlight on here so that we can convey that information to the seller? Okay, I'm going to run through a couple of these. I circle or highlight active so they don't get confused. I might even go as far down with my black Sharpie. I've got it here. I'm not lying. This is what I sent to this guy, right? With my black Sharpie. I live and die by my Sharpies. I highlight active. I might even go one step further down here and write for sale, big black letters so that it can't be avoided. I highlight the square footage under air. I highlight the price per square foot. I highlight the bedrooms, the bathrooms, that there's a den. I highlight the fact that it's built in 2005, okay? Follow me so far?
Yes.
Then I went down and I made a little asterisk down here, that there's no pool and no spa, right? Because the subject property has a pool and a spa, so we've got to reconcile for that when it comes time to putting our price together, right? Then I go ahead and I read the description, okay? And I make little notes there on what I think is important, because as many of you know, what we believe is valuable and what they believe is valuable is sometimes two completely different things, right? So I have highlighted brand new roof. I have highlighted Lakeview and more. I have highlighted hardwood floors and crown mold. Could I go in there and highlight more stuff? Sure, I'm noticing here that I missed new AC in 2022, Connecticut water system. Most of those homes in there came with stainless steel appliances because in 2005, that was all the rave and that's what we put in, right? So I'm just gonna have a little assumption that that's gonna be the case. Okay, Now, you've got 5 or 6 pages there for that particular listing. I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I'm throwing 2 or 3 of those pages out. Because all I need is this first page. And then I want the pictures. All I really want after that first page, ladies and gentlemen, is the pictures. Now, if on that second page of data, there's something on there that's important, maybe it's the fact that it's wood frame versus concrete block or something. 9 times out of 10, there's not much there. Then maybe you include it. But all I really want is the pictures because people are visual and I'm scanning this information to them and I want them to be able to see the pictures. Now, I'm printing in the multiple listing service, very specifically, I'm printing action. How do we get that thing? I'm printing very specifically when I do this, I am printing the customer financial report. Okay, not the PDF version. I'm printing the non-PDF customer report. And I'm not printing it as a PDF. I'm printing it as a preview. And the only reason that I'm doing that, ladies and gentlemen, is because the pictures are almost an inch larger compared to printing it on the PDF.
Cool.
What's neat.
A lot of my customers are a little bit older. Even when you're sending crappy copies over the internet, a bigger picture, I think, is a better picture. So, huh?
What do you need? How you did it?
I did customer financial preview, right? I also do the customer financial because it gives me the days on market. If you don't do the customer financial report, you just do the customer report, the days on market aren't there. And if one of the most important things that you need to convey to them is how long, right? And you don't have the days on market on there, you're gonna have to go print a separate report where they're going to ask you how long it's been on the market. But here it's already taken care of. Make sense? So I'm throwing out everything else and I'm just keeping the pictures. Okay? Next one, Fairview Loop Run, right? Is that the next comp that you have?
Yeah.
Okay. It's also active, right? So I'm circling active. This is a 3-2. Right? And I'm using this to show them that it's a 3-2. They're 100 and some square foot, 100 square foot larger. Yes, they don't have a pool and they don't have a very good view, but they're 100 square foot larger with an extra bedroom and they're at 429,000. Okay? So in this particular comp, I'm circling active, I'm circling bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, no view. I wrote in black Sharpie here, right?
Right.
For my own edification, so that I'm communicating with them, no view, no pool. And I put a little higher, an asterisk there. I did highlight new tile roof installed in 2020. Outside of that, all of this other mumbo jumbo is just filler. We all use it, we all say it. I didn't see anything in there of substance other than to point out the fact that in 2020, there was a new roof. Now, why do I keep highlighting a new roof?
Newer advances as well.
I'm sorry?
Newer advances, because a lot of people look into the advances.
New what?
Appliance.
Appliances. Yeah, again, this is, it's up to interpretation, whatever you think might be important. Again, if you looked at the pictures, yeah, I mean, there's a nice looking, glass top stove there, microwave and things like that. Personally, I think a home in 2006, a lot of them are gonna have, like the previous one said, stainless steel appliances. But again, the really cool thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, Freddie knows this, right, is you can manipulate this data any way that you really want to. I'm not telling you to be fraudulent, but there's lots of different ways that you can spin this. Right, Freddie? So again, I highlighted new roof in 2020, and I'm gonna continue to highlight new roof because every damn deal that I have going on right now that's got a roof that's 5 or 6 years old is a pain in the ass. Right? So this, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I just went, in my own personal residence, I went from 5 to 11 grand and I didn't even file a claim on my insurance, but it's because I'm in a flood zone and on a golf access canal. I didn't even have a freaking boat dock, but they hammered me, right? My roof was put on in 14 tile roof. I think they paid like $60,000 then. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but I'm getting murdered. So that's why I continue to highlight, so I can have that conversation with the seller, because they don't know that this is a pain in our ass right now,
No,
right?
that's true.
I've got a property for $800,000 right now on a sterile that I could have sold 3 times in the last 5 days.
Yeah.
And my seller is like, all insurance is expensive. It's not my fault that my roof's 21 years old.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, I'm sorry, lady. Number one, I'm bringing you every offer under the sun at 800K. You don't deserve 800K.
Right.
And you're giving me a bunch of crap that insurance is expensive. Deal with it. That's. Okay, last active, Lambeth, okay, Cece, want to participate?
I can try,
You can say no.
I can try.
Okay, so we're on Lambeth Court. Okay, tell me what you're going to highlight.
Active,
Mm-hmm,
4-bed
mm-hmm,
bathrooms, the square foot of the area.
mm-hmm.
Well, the description, something, the review,
Okay,
I will
so give
highlight
me a
that.
couple things in there. Read it and give me a couple things that you think is important.
brand new tile roof,
Mm-hmm,
that's like new remote control, roll down hurricane screen, that
Mhm.
sounds cool.
mm-hmm. I think that's good enough, right?
Good
I think she nailed it, right? So, the only other thing, Lisette, and it just goes to show you that I'm not consistent, I highlighted Whirlpool stainless steel kitchen. I didn't highlight it in the previous one. I highlighted it in the first one, right? It just kind of, it's talking points really for myself to have with the consumer, right? And again, ladies and gentlemen, I emailed this exact packet to Mr. Gert, right? And I just have big, huge circles. And I use circles with a black Sharpie because a highlighter doesn't show up very well when you scan it, especially when you use our machines back there. And then I just wrote 4-2 with the pool.
Yeah.
So that when I'm going over this information with him, I can say, man, this thing's a 4-2, right? I already knew based on my listing pre-qualification conversation, I already knew he was hoping like heck that this thing was every bit of 475, 500,000. Right? So I already knew that because I asked the question. So now it's my job to manipulate, for lack of better words, again, not be fraudulent, but manipulate the data so that I can show him ain't gonna happen. Right? Sorry, man. This thing is 350 square foot larger than yours. It's got 2 extra bedrooms. It's been listed since 12/26, so it hasn't been on the market too long, and they're at 469. How the heck, sir, do you think I'm gonna sell your 2-2? For 500,000 when this guy's not working, right? Okay, let's do some of these. So again, I'm including all the pictures, right? Nice and big pictures. And then when you get to like those last, 3 or 4 pictures, that's the freaking aerial view of the tennis court from freaking Mars. Like if that's the only picture, I'm trying to throw that away, right? I'm not trying to send a guy 125,000 pages in a scan. I'm trying to tell the story without shortcut, right? So now let's go to Oxford Ridge. Is that our first sold?
Fairloop
Which one do you have for your first sold?
Run,
Fairloop Run. Okay,
569.
okay. Carolina, what are we circling?
The status.
Sold, right?
So, the approximate living area.
Yep.
Any important stuff in the, over here in the property information.
Okay, give me some. There's a bunch in there.
New road,
Mhm.
2023. hurricane protection, that's something to mention.
Absolutely.
Inland.
Mm-hmm. Lots of good stuff. I'm gonna leave you off the hook here a little bit, but you got it, right? It's a 3 down to the pool, and this thing is loaded up with all kinds of upgrades, right? Oh, but now here's what's important that I think you need to point out. Owners want to relocate now. And ladies and gentlemen, if you went back and looked at the history on this thing, like these people were beyond motivated. This was more like a fire sale. And so I had to take that kind of into consideration with my net sheet. Like they had to be somewhere. They were already under contract. The deal fell through. So they, they were already the most aggressively priced property and they reduced it another 20-some thousand bucks to 405 and then sold still for 392, right? But I mean, you can tell based on, and that's what kind of led me to start digging a little bit more because I was like, holy smokes, right? Beautiful home back on the market, parties couldn't agree to terms, a win-win, right? Perfect for in-law setup, saltwater pool, new roof in 23, new AC, new hot water heater, hurricane protection, plantation shutters, like this is a nice freaking home, hardwood floor, the whole 9 yards, right?
Travertine,
Pardon me?
travertine floor.
Yeah, so you gotta take that stuff into consideration. Otherwise, my guy's probably well under 400,000 based on this, but you gotta take that into consideration. Okay, the next comp that you guys have then in order for sold,
Oxford Ridge.
Oxford Ridge,
2044.
2044. Okay, Shannon, it's kind of quiet over there. Okay, tell me what we're highlighting.
Sold,
Yep,
2 bedroom plus den, 2 bathroom.
okay,
It has new equipment, new pool, heater, filter, luxury vinyl floor, new air conditioner, and it's got a pool and a spa.
great, love it, right? So again, I circled a lot of the same things. This is really the last comp that we'll go over here, guys. I circled a lot of the same things, but there's a couple things on here that I want to point out too. The first comp that we showed, that we looked at here a couple seconds ago, that thing sold in November, right? Now this thing sold December 1st, right? I sent this guy this information 6-7 days ago, right? So this thing was hot off the presses, like 20 or 30 days of a recent sale. I think it's really, really important. I know a lot of you know this, to point that out, like, Bob, this just happened, right? Like it doesn't get much better than that. We're not talking about a stale comp from August when the interest rates were 7.5% and nobody could sell their home. These people were like, I'm out, right? Sold 25 days ago. And again, I emailed this to him with my black Sharpie, 2 in a den, pool, no view, right? This is smaller than the subject property. So, and I'm pointing that out because just like the previous comp we just talked about that sold for 392 and was a fire sale, now turn around and you've got a home that's probably not as nice, right? That just sold 30 days ago for 430,000 and it's 1,645 square foot. So it's 500 square foot smaller, which obviously is going to drive the price per square foot up, right? That's just how it works. But this is good news for the seller. And if you're in a presentation and all you feel like is that you're freaking punching the seller in the stomach and punching him in the stomach and punching him in the stomach with bad news, hit him with this. This is good news, right? And ultimately, if you're trying to build a little rapport with some good news and get them back on your side. Okay. Okay. So we've gone through all the comps, right?
I have one more sold.
Well, I want to, you guys want to go through it? We can go through if you want to go through the last one. I've only got 24 minutes and I want to make sure we get the net sheet done.
All right.
Okay. What is, tell me the last comp real quick.
It's an older comp. It's Bainmar sold for $449, $999, 2 bedrooms and a den. But it's sold in October.
Square footage?
1832,
Okay. Why is that important?
because it's bigger. 1832.
What's our subject?
Is it
That's-
17?
That is our subject.
Oh,
That is not our subject property. That is our subject floor
Oh,
plan.
okay. Oh, I didn't. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I say subject property. I'm sorry, I went to the.
The
bathroom,
subject
so-
property was the first thing that we brought up on the property appraiser.
Yeah, I
Remember, the very first one
I
that we
don't
went
remember
to?
what the square footage was.
1836.
Got it, yeah. So the AC was replaced in 18. It has a pool, all new equipment, crown molding, upgraded appliances, shutters.
Nice house, right?
Yeah, it's good.
So again, yes, it's an older comp, you know, October, but hell, October isn't really that far out. It meets our criteria,
It does.
right? And it gives us our third sold. So in theory, we have an October comp, right? We have a superior November comp, right? I'm doing this off of memory here, so
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, but we've got a superior November comp, 2,100 square foot, 4 bedroom, 2 bath. And then we've got a 1,645 square foot comp that closed December 1st for $430,000. Right? So now we have to sit down and kind of take a look at what that price range would be. Okay? So you guys take a couple minutes here based on that information, because everybody understands what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
We've got our solds, we've got our actives. We're fortunate enough to be able to manipulate this data, right? To present this information to the seller. I want you guys to give me a price range. So take a couple minutes and see what you come up with. Don't start completing your net sheet just yet, okay? Just get an idea of a high price and a low price.
You want it like within $10,000?
This is your world, I'm just living in, okay? I would say no,
Okay,
because it's $400,000, right? So $10,000 would be too small,
oh, okay.
you know what I mean? Like too small of a market, like you would be the greatest real estate agent in the world if you could pinpoint something at 400,000 within 10,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so you might have a little bit.
Right.
I, again, typically, depending on where the market is, somewhere between 5 and 10%
Okay.
is kind of the range,
Okay.
right? But ultimately, again, though, we want to try to keep our fingertips off of it,
Right.
right? So we're presenting it to them in a range to try to get them where you want them to be, right? 10,000, I think, would be a little bit too small. If it was $100,000 condo, that's perfect, right? When you've got your range, just kind of look up so I can know that we can move forward and get the next sheet fixed, okay? Get the next sheet on. It's really telling.
Like gas, and then the rest of it, is that very valuable or not?
You know, it's really kind of in the eye of the holder. I think it's something not to mention to it. I mean, you're a human, right? Right, last time you checked, right?
Yeah.
Is it important to you? Would that be important to you?
No, I just wondered if the valuable.
I know, but that's what I'm getting at, right? Like,
Right.
so I'm a human also, and
No.
I can honestly say that for the first time in my entire life, I cooked on a gas stove. The day after Christmas when my food was on, right? I never cooked on it. Was it awesome? Yeah, it was like, wow, this is awesome. But is it something that I would potentially call out? I don't know. Right?
What's the specific?
Yeah, I don't, it's not something I would say, well, there's another $10,000.
Right.
You know, something like that.
Yeah, some people.
Mhm.
Sometimes the HOA costs not gonna have to do that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, in this particular instance, so as you know, right, these are all
It's all
the
the
same
same
thing,
thing.
right? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right, right? We didn't have to necessarily take that into consideration for just recently.
I get, well, first questions that come up.
Yeah.
Especially after the storms. Out of times envisioning all kinds of damage here that beyond what it really was.
Yep. Okay. Okay, guys, we got 15 minutes, so I want to get started here. I'm sure you've all kind of gathered some sort of an idea here. So rattle off some low numbers, right? So who's got some on the low end, where's this thing set? The subject property,
435,
435. Okay, Doreen on the high side.
450.
Freddie, what you got?
Got 429.9.
What you got?
439.9.
I got
Freddie's on. He's got $10,000. I love it. I love it. Who else got one?
394 on low
394 low,
and 434 on high. 434, yeah.
434.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Got 430, 460.
430. 460. Okay. Mike, you got one? Steve, you got one?
399,
399.
440.
440. Okay. Based on this information here, I just really got one thing to say. Why the hell am I teaching this class? You guys got it. I mean, again, I know it's not necessarily rocket science, guys. I'll make a couple comments about this. So I'm at 422 to 450. Right? We're gonna list at 429.9 because Krista, right? Feel sorry for Krista. She is, does anybody know Krista here before I throw her under the bus here a little bit?
No.
Krista's 51 years old. Daddy financed the house for her, and now Daddy's building her another one in Tampa.
How horrible.
This is what's wrong with America, ladies and gentlemen. Right? So Gert doesn't want this thing hanging around because he's probably footing the bill. Right? And because he's relocated, now Krista's got to relocate. And so he doesn't want that thing lingering around with whatever the fees are, that sort of thing. So again, 422 to 450 is what I completed on my net sheet. And we're going to list it 429.9. Right? And so a couple comments on the numbers here that you guys put together, and there's zero wrong with any of these numbers. Really, I can honestly truly say that. If you're going to give them a low end of 394, and I don't know who did it, and I don't care, or 399, just be prepared. Because what's the word I'm looking for? 399.9 is a hell of a lot less than 400,000. Are you following me? Like, we
Yes.
know that it's not,
Yes.
but it's psychologically, it's like, oh my God, right? $1,000. So just be prepared if you're gonna present that, to be able to have some factual data to back that up. Right? And if you're going to present a 460, be prepared for them to say, well, then let's list it at 460.
Right.
And then either live and die with that or be able to back that down a little bit, right? For instance, and I've used it a half a dozen times. Abraham, we can go ahead and list the property at 460,000, man. However, did you notice that the average days on market in Westminster right now is trending around 90, 93 days? What's gonna happen, sir, if we don't get your property sold and get you to Alaska in the next 30 days?
Gotta reduce the price.
I'm trying to convince you to reduce the price, so hopefully it went right, so. Let me make sure that I understand, right? So if I presented that information to you, you're saying that you would just then reduce the price down the road?
That's
Sure.
the smart seller, that's what a smart seller would do, they would reduce the price. But,
From the onset or 30 days from now?
I say 2 weeks or 30 days.
Okay, so see, what I'm trying to convince you to do, because you need to be Alaska in 30 days, is to price it,
Something like that.
you know, here
Yeah.
from day one, so that we can get you to Alaska to see those grandbabies. What the grandbabies' names again?
He doesn't know he's gonna have them yet.
Yeah.
He's too
Right. But I'm being real, like, what's the grandbaby's name? What are you missing?
Right.
Right? Like, when I got married, started having kids, right? My dad lived in Ohio. And there was no way on God's green earth that he was ever, under any circumstances, ever gonna move to hot ass Bonita Springs, Florida. He can't stand the heat. 13 days after I had my first child, he bought a house without me in Bonita Springs, Florida.
It happens.
People do crazy shit for their
It
grandkids,
happens.
right? True story, right? So don't say they won't. Okay, let's bust through the net sheet real quick. Who knows how to complete one of these bad boys?
Oh, it's been a long time.
So let me ask you this, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You're not presenting this?
Not every time, but I do them through the title company if
Sure.
needed. So.
Yep.
It's been a long time.
Okay, in Lee County, who pays title insurance?
Seller,
Seller. In Collier County, who pays title insurance? Per local custom.
buyer.
Buyer, right? So that's important to know. Yes, sir.
Say, if they set up a title company, then they have to sell out to pay for.
Not necessarily, because the Naples contract says, one of those funky contracts, and maybe it got changed recently, but there's a funky little provision in one of those contracts where picked by the buyer and paid by the opposite party, and it always freaking tripped me up there for a little while. But yeah, so you kind of gotta be careful with, but I think that's a good phrase to say to yourself. And that's a phrase that I say to a lot of my sellers, like, hell, if you're gonna pay, then we get to pick. Because 9 times out of 10, I don't know about y'all, but some of these attorneys in Naples and the fees that they charge for facilitating the transaction is absolutely asinine. Right? I mean, we just did a land deal in Golden Gate Estates for $64,000, and the title company in Miami, because it was a Miami agent, they wanted to use a Miami attorney. They wanted like $980. I mean, shit, that was more than we were making as the commission. Right, on the thing, and they want $980. Well, it's a mail away. Well, give me a break. Send it to me. I'll friggin' snail mail it with 2 stamps and we'll call it a day. Like, you know what I mean? So, okay, so we got our high range and our low range, right? So just use your individual high range and your low range. Put your low range here on the left-hand column, your high range on the right-hand column. This is the Lee County transaction. Sales price, so you're high on this side, on the right, and you're low on the left. Okay, doc stamps on the deed is 70 cents per 100. Okay, so I was always taught, you just whack off the 2 zeros at the end of the price and multiply that times 70 cents.
2 zeros or 1 0? I mean.
So yes, so 2 zeros, right?
Oh, 2 0.
Yep.
So.
So you're gonna multiply 4110 times 0.70. $2,870 for you. Everybody got that?
Say that again, please?
Okay, so you're gonna take,
My lowest is 429.
okay, so you're gonna multiply 4290 times 0.70. That's 70 cents per 100. In your particular instance, you have 4,290 100s. Everybody good there? We're on to the title insurance, okay? The title insurance is always $575 for the first 100,000. So CC, right, Sissy? CC, CC. You have so now you have left 329,000 times 5. Or excuse me, 329 times 5 plus $575.
Oh, God, hang on.
Right, because your first 100,000 is $575 flat.
Right.
Right, look up or raise your hand if you're struggling with it.
So 575 times 4. Because it's 400.
Just forget about that altogether, because that's automatically worth $575. So now take $100,000 away and multiply 320 times 5. And then add $575 to that, because that was the first 100,000, and your title insurance is $2,175.
Can you look at this, please?
Pardon me?
Can
Times
you-
5 or times 2.5? When we multiply times 5, is it times 5?
I just use times 5, it still comes out the same figure, it doesn't give you the zeros.
Can you just look at this? I think it's right. So it's 575 for the first 1,000, and then this times $5
Mhm.
is this.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, bingo.
Okay, gotcha.
Everybody good so far? Okay, so now the next line is for basically facilitating the paperwork, right? My title company charges $400. So those lines should be the same. And I write $400.
Wow.
You can see here I have written on the side, $300 to $400. I just use 400. And then I use a recording fee of $30. My form is pre-printed with what I charge my sellers. Your form could be pre-printed with whatever you choose to charge your sellers. If they want to negotiate from there, I typically tell them I can go to 7.
Pretty much.
Right, Steve? You know that drill, right? If there's one number, ladies and gentlemen, that you need to get good at calculating, make it be this number. Everybody got their commission dollars down? Okay, so now how much you're gonna earn? Home warranty, I wrote in a big fat 0, right? I have written out next to the home warranty, obviously $300 to $500 or $300 to $350, I guess. Well, that probably needs to be adjusted. Home warranties are probably a little bit more expensive these days. But you get the idea, right? If somebody wants to include a home warranty, you can go ahead and do that. Closing costs to the buyer. We won't get too much into that right now. Again, I use the figure of 0. But let's say, for instance, there is an opportunity there for the seller to provide to the buyer 6% of the sales price for prepaids and closing costs. So that's where you would calculate those closing costs proration. Everybody follow me on that? Because it's a big swing, right? When I use this not only on the initial presentation, right? But when I'm done with my initial presentation and we go through these numbers, I also say to them, now, Doreen, when we get an offer, one of the very first things that I'm going to do is complete one of these so that we can have a conversation around the net figure. Because again, at the end of the day, if all Doreen really cares about is what's going in her checkbook when it's all said and done, she might be pissed that I brought her an offer of 425, but when she sees it really only nets her $5,000 or $10,000 from where she ultimately wanted to be, then all I've got to do is negotiate for that difference, that what she's going to be happy for. I'm not negotiating over, "Oh, that son of a bitch, they offered me 400,000. Can't they see I'm listed at 475?
Right.
Right? Those are just real conversations. But when you point out the net and what's really ultimately important, you might overcome a little bit less. Okay? So closing costs, taxes. I don't monkey with this. You guys might be smarter than me. I just write the word prorated, right? Because they are prorated. Taxes in our area are paid in what?
Arrears.
In arrears, right? So they're behind. So you can go into this big, huge, long song and dance and try to figure it out and calculate it, or you can just say to them, taxes are prorated, and then maybe give them a little 2-sentence synopsis on, like this is for now, right? Like right now, I'm saying to them, that piece of paper that you just got about 30 days ago, those were actually what your taxes are going to be due in April for the previous year, right? And then I just go over it. And then I've got your total estimated deductions, the next line. So that's all of those numbers calculated into one big fat number, right? My number is 30-some thousand to 32,000. Realistically, you guys' number should be, 25 to 35,000 as well. Total estimated deductions. Okay. Lisette told me that she owes. Anybody remember? Lisette owes $340,000 on this property. So let's use $340,000 as the mortgage payoff.
340.
How much?
340,000. So now we have $25,000 to $35,000 in total estimated deductions, right? You're with me, right? That's your commission, your doc stamps, your title insurance, all that stuff. And then you've got your $340,000 mortgage. Those two need to be added together and then subtracted from your sales price. And when I'm done, so again, ladies and gentlemen, I know I said this, but I'm doing this in front of them. Right? Give them a small little task to do, take a look at this, whatever, can I have a glass of water? Right? And I'm gonna complete this quick net sheet here. And I'm basically doing it right in front of them. And then I'm flipping it around, right? Because I've done it like this. And I'm simply flipping it around like that. And we're going through the numbers. And when I'm all said and done, I generally make some sort of a joke at the bottom about, and here comes my favorite part, right? This is when you get to keep 391,000. I get my 6%. It almost seems unfair, but congratulations.
I thought she had a mortgage at 340.
Huh.
Oh, okay. I'm like, hey, how did I do it?
Daddy Warbucks doesn't have a mortgage. In our example, we have a mortgage. So everybody got the figure?
Yeah.
So did you add or you subtract the total estimated deduction from the mortgage payoff?
Okay, so think about this, right? The 30,000 is your cost of sale. Everybody understand?
Yeah.
Right? So in addition to, I'm gonna sell my house for 425,000. And I owe a couple different things before I get to keep any of it. I owe you the unit. I pay my title insurance, I pay my doc stamps, and Wells Fargo wants their $340,000. So does that answer your question?
No, so do I add or do I subtract?
Well, I want you to think about it a little bit.
So
right?
I add,
Correct, you add
Okay.
those two numbers together,
okay,
because you gotta pay 340,000 to Wells Fargo,
yeah,
and you gotta pay me.
okay,
And all of that, Carolyn, it comes out of the total.
okay.
Everybody got their number?
Yeah.
How much money's this gal got left over?
66,000.
66,000 on
my
the,
low end.
on the low,
Yeah, 80,000 on the high.
okay? Steve?
20,000 to 73,000.
Well, yeah, because you had a decent, a 50K swing here, a 41,000 swing, yep. Okay. Freddie, you got a number?
On the low end, I have 58, 443, and next.
It's 3 o'clock, guys, and I can go on forever, but I wanted to try to finish on time, so, Bobby, you got a number?
I had 25, 40.
Okay, and your math, you think your math's correct? Yep, awesome. Abraham, you got correct numbers? Cool, cool. So really, guys, keep that damn net sheet. If you struggle with something like this, keep it. Just using it as an example. If you want extra copies, I got a bunch of extra.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
Just one.
Take it. White out my name, white out place, or take 150 copies. I don't really care.
Crop off the top there.
Okay, I don't really care. I'm not savvy enough to tell you that I can send it all and you can adjust it because, well, you've all met me. I'm not. That's right?
Why do you print the landscape? Are the pictures bigger when you print the landscape?
Customer financial report,
But landscape.
landscaped preview, because if you do customer financial
Yeah.
PDF, the pictures are,
Pictures are small.
yeah,
But
they're smaller.
But I guess my question is to do it landscape instead of portrait.
I just think the
Is that-
pictures are even larger.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the way.
Very
I
helpful,
do it.
it's very helpful.
That's awesome.
I think it was, JJ, as a matter of fact, told me that Mark Benson does it on legal size paper,
Oh, really?
because the pictures are even
Great
bigger.
idea. I don't know, I used to write all my notes and then send it that way, and then somebody told me it was not. So I stopped doing it that way, but I'm so glad that you do it that way, because I will.
Yeah.
It's quite fun. Go back.
I think it makes more perfect.
Okay, so like, we want to think about this, do you leave the documentation with them?
So you're not ready to list.
Right.
Do I leave the documentation with them? Absolutely, without any hesitation whatsoever.
Interesting.
Thank you, Cory.
I mean,
I
know-
used to be skeptical about that, but
I'm more concerned about getting this damn thing back, because it cost me $3.75
Okay.
to print it, right?
Not getting this.
Yeah, don't be walking off of that. You're gonna list your house.
Yeah, one more.
No, sorry, that's not for Keith.
Yeah, I have one.
I'm not joking, guys. I'm really not joking.
Absolutely.
If they're never gonna look at it again, right? That's a lot of money adds up really, really quick. So, quite honestly, I would say better than 75% of the time that I go on a listing presentation, the damn thing doesn't even get over. Because they don't really care. I erased it, but they want those 7 things.
I took a picture of it.
Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. All right.